You're laying in bed realizing that Nintendo is evil. They are preparing for world domination because look at this. They profited $3.2 billion last year. Okay? And stay with me. The CEO and president, two jobs, only made 2.8 million out of the 3 billion profit. They got to be saving up for world domination. There's no other explanation why you can't come out with Super Mario Galaxy 3. I've been waiting for Super Mario Galaxy 3 for the longest. It's because they're trying to take over the world. I find it very hard to believe that you made this times 50 is 640 million, 350 million, 450 million, a total of $1.4 billion off of Super Mario Galaxy content, and not be like, yeah, let's make another one. Your plans are to world domination. There's no other explanation. You can't make you tell me you made $1.4 billion off of Super Mario Galaxy content, and you're not making a third one.
Yeah, because they're just going to end up re-releasing the same exact game years later for more money, because that's the Nintendo way. So, guys, Nintendo is out of control. Did Nintendo just ban gamers from reviewing Nintendo Switch 2 hardware and Nintendo Switch 2 games when they release? The answer may surprise you. Watch to the end of the video to fully have these questions answered, and learn even more about why you should not buy a Nintendo Switch 2 and it's time to drop Nintendo. Today's video actually comes from Dreamcast Guy. His channel will be linked in the description of the video so that you can go and check him out. Don't forget to follow us over on Rumble. Our Rumble will be linked in the description of the video. So you can go follow us over on Rumble. We have a lot of exclusive content coming out on Rumble. So if you're missing Angry Guy content, streams, and so forth, we have a lot of exclusive stuff coming out only on Rumble. So go and check us out over there. Follow us over there. And guys, if you want to learn how to buy, sell, and trade crypto, because hard times have arrived, then check out Angry's Crypto Academy, which is also linked in the description of the video. And now let's go ahead and jump into Dreamcast Guy's video, because this is a doozy from Nintendo.
Gamers, Dreamcast Guy here, and today we're talking about Nintendo because it just came out that there is not going to be reviews for the Switch 2. They're not sending out early units, which means that journalists, major websites, YouTubers, influencers, nobody's going to have access to it. So nobody's going to be able to break down the goods and the bads, the features, the battery life, the actual stuff that makes it good. There's also not going to be reviews for any of the launch games. And the reason they said this, I actually think it's a lie, but let's take a look at it. And I also want to just say that the weirdest part of this entire thing is that this is unprecedented. There has never been really any piece of major tech that doesn't have reviews.
Now, here's another thing that's very telling, and I'm going to continue the video. Don't forget that Nintendo has now taken away your right to sue them. So basically, now everything with Nintendo has to be in arbitration unless you send a letter to Nintendo over the next 30, well, not even 30 days. You have less than 30 days now to send a letter to Nintendo, basically after you accept their new user agreement that you cannot, that basically that, they can brick your console, so they can essentially send a firmware update to your Nintendo Switch and Nintendo Switch 2. So people who currently own Nintendo Switches, if Nintendo decides that you're using your hardware incorrectly, they can send essentially a firmware update to your console and brick a device that you purchased almost 10 years ago, as well as a $500 device that you're going to be purchasing now, and they're taking away your ability to sue them. This is all insane stuff, and now there will be no review units of the console going out to anyone. So even biased media companies like IGN, Digital Foundry, and others will not get a copy of the Nintendo Switch 2 in advance, nor will they get copies of games. So there will be no reviews for any of their games. There will be no reviews of the hardware. So you won't even be able to say if there are, guys, imagine if there was a problem with the device, if the battery life, there's an issue with the battery life or all of these other things, and there's no testing being done. It sounds like Nintendo is trying to cover something up. This is really serious. This is really, really serious. So we'll jump back in. This is why I say, guys, do not buy Nintendo Switch 2. And if you're looking into getting into Nintendo's ecosystem, don't do it. Go and get an effing Steam Deck.
with expensive graphics cards. They send it to tech websites early, or stuff from PlayStation or Xbox. They usually send the consoles and the games early so people can actually see how good it is. It shows a confidence in the product that clearly Nintendo just does not have. They don't want people to even be allowed to talk about it, good or bad. And I have to say that part of the weirdness of this is that a lot of Nintendo fans are celebrating this, saying, the YouTubers were mean. I don't want to see you review. And I find that weird. I am a big believer that the conversation is important. Even when I watch a review, coverage, even if it's something that I feel like their opinions are incredibly bad or
Keep in mind, Dreamcast guy is often criticized as being a shill. So when you have people who are often criticized as being shills now saying that they are being silenced by shills, you know it's bad. And I'm not calling him a shill. I'm just saying that he often takes a lot of criticism for his pro Nintendo or pro PlayStation stance. But the reality, and he's a Nintendo YouTuber, he was a part of the Spawn, he was a part of the whole Spawn casting, and I don't know, I guess John fired him. But I'm just saying, I don't know if that's true or not, but regardless, he's one of the Nintendo YouTubers. And when you have Nintendo YouTubers beginning to cry, you realize it's getting bad. Of course, people like Switch Force will always say everything's good to go, but yeah, the situation is just absolutely awful. This is unprecedented. This never happens. This has never happened before, where any console or any device or any games from a large company, or almost any company, releases and there's no preview units. Like, you get into trouble. Like, when you try to do things like this, people like MKBHD come after you. Like MKBHD, Marcus Lee Brownlee, he's gone to great lengths to get hardware to review when companies do this, but they'll sue the hell out of him. Like, if MKBHD tries to get an early review unit or anything, Nintendo will brick the console. They will sue the hell out of him. They will take legal action against him. That's who Nintendo is. This is a bad situation, y'all.
unfounded, or they didn't do enough research, or they don't understand the game series. I'm still always interested in other people's takes. And it seems weird that, if anything, Nintendo wants silence. They do not want to allow you to badmouth it before they can sell it, which is, to me, the biggest red flag. But let's take a look. Hi, hope you're having a great day. And if you could, please give this video a like and subscribe if you haven't already. Okay. Now, their official thing is that journalists are not getting Switch 2s before launch until just before launch, so probably 2 or 3 days before launch, due to a massive day one patch, claims the game business. Notably, a recent video on Nintendo Today showed a Switch 2 running firmware 20.1.0. The latest Switch 1 firmware is 20.1.00. So essentially, they're saying, okay, we're trying to make sure that it's finished, that the OS, the operating system, is as good as possible. Now, a lot of people are immediately saying this is BS. There have been major updates to all sorts of games, all sorts of hardwares. I have been reviewing tech and video games now for just short of 10 years. I think I've been reviewing tech now for like 9.5 years, right? When you actually review stuff before launch, if there's glitches and stuff, they tell you. They send you this manual, and there's this big part of the manual for all of it that says known issues of, hey, like stuff like if you try to jump from this save point to this save point, sometimes stuff doesn't work. Like when I was reviewing God of War Ragnarok, there was a big thing that said, hey, changing the difficulty before launch, you have to completely leave the game, go back into it, and it registers. Or when you're...
Something that I'm noting, and this seems very, very in line with this, and of course, the Nintendo shills are not going to admit it. Well, the thing is this: if Nintendo, I'm concerned that Nintendo is doing a lot of this also because they're afraid that people are going to cancel pre-orders. They're afraid that people are going to cancel pre-orders, and it's a very serious issue. You don't even know if Nintendo might try to raise the price prior to launch. They could do that, but maybe they won't. But I think that, like, they're afraid that people are going to, like, for example, the reviews for Mario, the reviews for Mario, from what do you call it, Mario Kart World come out, and people are like, and they're like, basically, yeah, Mario Kart World is okay, but it's not really that great. I mean, you can. It's basically a driving simulator. Like that's what Nintendo invented. Nintendo invented a driving simulator. Where basically, and it's not even like the greatest driving simulator ever. You're basically supposed to just drive around endlessly across the world. So you're either racing or you're driving, and you don't. And now you have to also drive to your next race. Which I mean, it's mundane things help make a game feel fluid, but this just seems kind of tedious. I don't want to spend all my time. I just want to jump in and play very quickly. And as a result of this, it could result in a lot of people just saying, you know what, Mario Kart 8 is better. I'm telling you right now, I feel like a lot of people might just end up saying Mario Kart 8 is better. Mario Kart 8 Deluxe is better, especially with all of the tracks and everything else. And don't be surprised. I'm telling you right now, don't be surprised when Nintendo jacks up the price for Mario Kart 8. I see it happening to $60 or even $80 for the Switch version of the game. All right. Don't be surprised when Nintendo jacks up the price for all of their games, for a lot of their first party games, because they're already doing it with so many things. But don't be surprised when they jack them all up, to $70 and $80 on just a Nintendo normal for just the normal Nintendo Switch games. This is what's happening, guys. Nintendo does not like us. Hard times are here, guys. That's another reason why I keep on telling you guys that you need to learn how to invest in crypto, because this is how you're going to be able to survive when everything is crashing and burning down around us. And one of the best ways to do that is by checking out Angry's Crypto Academy.
Ask you something. When the banks collapse, and trust me, it's coming, will you be ready? Imagine waking up to ATMs that don't work, bank doors chained shut, and millions of people left with nothing. No cash, no access to their savings, and no way to survive. But it doesn't have to be that way for you. That's why I created Angry's Crypto Academy, to teach you everything you need to know about crypto so you can protect yourself and your family. You'll learn how to buy, sell, and even day trade crypto for a living. Plus, we alert you to new crypto trends so you can profit before everyone else even knows what's happening. Right now, I've just published an exclusive investment guide inside the Academy, and it's linked in the description below. In it, I reveal the one coin that could make you a millionaire. A coin so revolutionary, it could change everything. If you missed out on Bitcoin and Ethereum, this is your second chance. This isn't just about financial freedom. It's about survival. When the system collapses and everyone else is selling, you'll be the one buying, prepared to weather the storm and thrive while others struggle to survive. Don't wait. This knowledge isn't optional, it's critical. The link's in the description. Go check it out now.
Reviewing tech, a lot of times people will say, okay, don't open like 15 tabs and stuff. We're still working out the final kinks of the multi-threading. There's all sorts of stuff like that. This is the first time I've ever seen where a company is saying, you can't review it because we don't want you to see this update. I truly don't believe it. Now, the Wii U also had a thing where the Wii U had a big day one update, but they still gave out review units. The 3DS, the Nintendo Switch, they gave out Nintendo Switches an entire month before launch. I mean, a lot of y'all don't remember that now because it's been 8 years ago, but this to me seems sus. Now, I actually saw this tweet from Direct Feed Games, and I feel like it's brilliant. I don't know why people are celebrating this. It's not a good precedent to see a company, it's not a good precedent to see set by a company, nor do I believe the firmware reasoning. This is a net negative for launch day game releases that want to generate excitement or hype. I'll have a launch. Yeah, this is the thing. So not only are there not going to be reviews, there's not going to be day one videos. There's not going to be cool side-by-side comparisons saying, hey, here's Cyberpunk running on a PS5 versus it running on the Nintendo Switch. There's not going to be anything. And to me, I do feel like this shows the fact that Nintendo definitely seems to be afraid of the videos. They're afraid of the negativity. I guess maybe they're trying to damage control it, but in a way, this is going to make it worse. It's weird. It doesn't seem to be too hard to send units that have already had the firmware updated. This is typically what they do. If you're trying to send something out, a lot of times what they'll do is, hey, we're going to update it at the lab, and they'll tell you. A lot of times I've gotten stuff like some retro handhelds stuff I've reviewed in the past. They would actually tell you like, hey, we're trying to rush a patch. We're doing something for launch. We'll let you know when we drop it in the mail, but we're trying to finish the back-end testing of this patch on the firmware before we put it on the final device and mail it to you. This is something that'll be ready in factories whenever people buy it. There is ways to do this that clearly this shows that either the firmware is really not ready, even though it's coming out here in 2 weeks, or they're lying. Now, some people are making memes about the fact that, a lot of security researchers, aka hackers, are definitely going to break into this. A lot of people are also pointing out the fact that if this is true, you shouldn't be saying that. If saying, hey, there's a massive security vulnerability, people aren't going to update their Nintendo Switch 2s now. People are going to be buying them specifically so they can hack it and bootleg games. Oh, God, so glad I have 2 incoming. Yes, researchers, literally, everybody is like, look, man, hackers are absolutely going to mess with this. Now, additionally, people are making a very important observation, which is the fact that this is also a bad sign, because I hope this isn't a situation where the console requires an internet update in order to work. We've seen this with other systems. Now, the reason this sucks is not just because it does make your system basically have a ticking time bomb to it. If your system requires an internet connection to initially work, then that means in the future, whenever that console becomes irrelevant, whenever the servers are offline, your system is just a brick. I don't like that kind of stuff. But also, additionally, if you buy a system and the servers go down on launch day, then you can't play your system. The system you buy day one. I actually had a viral video back when the Xbox One came out because Microsoft servers actually crashed, or I think maybe they got hit by Lizard Squad or something. And so because of it, for the first 3 hours that I had my Xbox One, it was bricked. I unboxed it, I booted it up, and it would not do the starting launch because it said, oh, I don't see the servers, so your system just doesn't exist. I do not want the Switch 2 to require an internet connection. And also,
now here's something actually very interesting. This happened a few months ago, I believe, with Sony, where Sony's network went offline, and you had digital games that people, not just digital games, you had both digital and physical games that people had purchased that no longer worked because they could not connect to Sony servers. Now, these were like first party games. These were offline games, and they would not work. You could put in the disc and the disc would not play the game. And Sony basically offered some BS compensation, but it just illustrates that under our noses, these companies have basically made their games, online only. And we have simply the illusion. We have simply the illusion of ownership. We don't own crap. Even if you download your game offline, your PlayStation 5 is constantly checking in for an internet connection. It's constantly checking in for an internet connection to validate whether or not your the game has been pirated or not, or make sure that, like, this is crazy stuff. So, and even with a physical version of the game, even if you buy the physical version, if you don't have an internet connection, you'll often get a screen telling you, "Up, sorry, you're not able to access the game." Can't access, but you're like, wait a minute, it's an offline game. It's a digital. I have the files here. I have the physical version. But so many of these physical versions are not even the entire game. Like, you need an update, you need a patch or whatever, but you're given the illusion that you have ownership. So maybe even like the digital version of the digital portion of the game that you have to download, you can't access that either. And this is exactly where it looks like things are headed with Nintendo, where they're trying to prevent, where they likely will now, it'll basically be an always on device where you have the illusion of ownership, especially with these whole game key card things, where Nintendo is basically going for the kill with this generation, where you will own nothing. You will not be able to question Nintendo. You will not be able to sue Nintendo. You will have, if you want to continue playing Nintendo products, you'll be forced into arbitration. And my attorney basically told me this is the catch 22. You might think that if you refuse to accept Nintendo's new agreement, first off, Nintendo says that if you, by simply continuing to use their service, you're accepting their agreement, but they also force you to click on accept when you go to the Nintendo website, or I believe, or I think even on the Nintendo Switch console itself, right? So one way or another, Nintendo is going to force you to accept their agreement if you want to continue playing your games and owning your games. Now, the crazy thing is what my attorney told me. If you refuse to accept their agreement, they can basically say that, well, we're no longer going to provide you with access to Nintendo Online, to your Nintendo account. We'll terminate our service with you. By them terminating their service with you, they can then argue that you are no longer a Nintendo customer. Therefore, you no longer have the right to sue them. It basically makes it even harder to sue them if you refuse to accept their agreement. What you have to do is accept their agreement. I made an entire other video about it, and you guys can go check that one out. But you have to accept their agreement and then quickly send in, which I have to hurry up and do, send in a letter to Nintendo, a notice to Nintendo, letting them know that you are opting out of their agreement, their arbitration agreement. And to make matters even worse, you have a very small period of time to do that. 30 days after the time when you accept the agreement. And the thing is, you really need to do it as quickly as possible, as in, as soon as that agreement went up, you need to jump on it, because Nintendo can basically then say, nope, by you continuing to have a Nintendo user account, blah 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 blah, you accepted the agreement. Even if you didn't know about it, you still accepted it. And they're also banking on people accepting these agreements without even knowing that they're surrendering or giving up their rights to arbitration, giving up their rights to sue them. And Nintendo has a massive number of lawyers that work for the actual company. Like, if there's one thing that Nintendo has, is they probably have more lawyers than developers at this time. And these creepy Nintendo ninjas, they're basically Nintendo's lawyers that will come to your house and harass you at home. And they're always everywhere. If you're at a game convention and you say something Nintendo doesn't like, the Nintendo ninjas will be on you. They will come to your homes. They will bribe you. Nintendo will bribe you. They will do all of these types of things. Evidently, I'm based on just based on speculations that I've seen. Okay. For example, there was a situation where there was an emulator creator. Maybe it was for Yuzu. I just think this guy lived in Brazil, and Nintendo attorneys went to this guy's house and basically made him an offer for the technology. This was very, very strange, and evidently he did accept. But why would you go to the man's house? Nintendo's attorneys went to his house. That sounds more like you threaten someone, where we know where you live. So either you accept our offer, or strange things will start to happen. Can you imagine someone's attorneys coming to your house with an offer? Just what, this is ridiculous stuff. And it's basically, you have no choice. Either you take this and make the agreement, or we know where you live, and maybe next time the people who show up here won't be as nice. Not saying that anyone's showing up, but this is how Nintendo operates, using intimidation and what accounts to a BRI, what looks very much like a bribe. Again, I'm not saying it's that they have been bribing people, but I'm saying it looks very suspect. Very suspect. And I actually have a video from Zach over at Switch Force. I'll link Zach's channel in the description of the video, because Zach is a hardcore Nintendo shill, and evidently he's now complaining about the situation as well too, which is crazy.
Again, this is something that would be unprecedented. There's never been a Nintendo system ever that requires the internet to even work. This sucks. Unprecedented. I'm glad that so many people are pointing it out. This to me is also weird, because that means the fact that there's not going to be a review for Breath of the Wild, any of the update patches. So we don't know, are the games that are getting the Switch 2 patch, we're not going to know how significant they actually are. Also, there won't be a review for Mario Kart World. I mean, this to me, just across the board, this shows the fact that how unprepared Nintendo is. The fact that Nintendo is trying to even in its current state, I think they're trying to damage control this. I think they are trying to basically roll out as many patches, as many updates, as much as they possibly can to insulate themselves from the perpetually bad press. I feel like so much of the conversation around the Nintendo Switch 2 has been how expensive the games are. The fact that games are costing $80, the fact that the controllers are $100, the fact that the system, even without a game, is $450.
So this is what Nintendo does. So when they cannot silence when they cannot silence you, they go to great steps to silence you, because the discourse around Nintendo's current console is so bad, because people are so angry. They could Nintendo's not going to back down because they're greedy, and they're trying to basically gather up as much money as they can to take over the world. Nintendo has big ambitions. Nintendo's trying to become the new Disney. So Disney is dying. We can clearly see that Disney is 100% dying. And with Nintendo now opening up theme parks all around the world, in Japan, in the United States, I think maybe, like, I know they opened up one in California. I don't know if they're opening up a second one in the US. With Nintendo has big ambitions. With the Nintendo movie coming out, and the next Nintendo movie, and the Mario movie coming out, making like $1 billion. Another Mario movie on the way, which will evidently be called like Super Mario World. I think Yoshi will be in that, and then on top of that, there's also a legend. There's a new Zelda movie coming out, a Legend of Zelda movie coming out. Guys, that says a lot. Nintendo is Pokemon. The Pokemon franchise, last I checked, which Nintendo owns a portion of, it's owned by Game Freak, and they own a portion of Game Freak. Pokemon franchise is actually worth about $100 billion, which is the reason why Nintendo is going after Power World so hard, because that is their bread and butter right there. Nintendo has world domination. Nintendo has world domination plans. That's what it is. They are looking to become a $1 trillion company. They're looking to completely push out any of their competitors, using every tactic they possibly can to silence and shred. That's what they're going for. They want a large stake of the movie industry. They want a large stake. They want to own the video game industry completely, because with the prices and everything, and Nintendo, they're basically positioning their hardware against the PlayStation 5, Xbox, and they're now saying, where our console is just as premium, or not even as premium. It is more premium than a PlayStation 5. It is more premium than Xbox S or Series X. Our games are more premium than all of that. Don't be surprised when Nintendo drops the next Legend of Zelda and it costs $100. Okay, because that's where Nintendo is going for. They're just going to keep on raising the prices as much as they possibly can and milking the consumer. And something I actually speculated is that the Nintendo Switch 2 will sell well in its first year, and then it's going to sharply decline year over year after that. One of the biggest problems is that Nintendo is losing trust with its consumers. The shocking thing with Nintendo, and Ken and Krista have talked about this, is that there were people there that would address this immediately. They basically don't have that anymore. Reggie Fils-Aimé, he's retired, and Mr. Iwata, he passed away as the former CEO of Nintendo in Japan, and the former president of Nintendo America. Now we have a guy named Doug Bowser running the company Bowser, which, by the way, is the name of Mario's arch villain rival, Bowser. Like, so yeah, and he's not doing a good job, that's for sure. I mean, yeah, guys, I mean, maybe don't hire a company named Bowser. Hire a guy named Bowser. I'm just saying, like, it doesn't. I'm just saying. But yeah, that's basically where we are with the situation right now, and it looks very, very bad. And Nintendo's way of handling things, because they're losing the trust of the player, is to go deeper and to completely shut out any discourse around their games. And don't be surprised when Nintendo starts saying that they will issue copyright strikes and whatever to pull down videos that are critical of their games. And they'll say that, oh, guys, don't be shocked. Like, I can see this coming right now, where Nintendo basically says that they don't want any videos of Mario Kart World Online, or specific parts of Mario Kart World Online, for like for like the further, like, further, no, until further notice, because they want to preserve the experience for their players. So they're going to try to. I feel like Nintendo will try to push to censor any videos that come out after even after the console releases, maybe for at least the first couple of weeks, so that people will basically go out, pick it up, and play it for themselves. And Nintendo then hopes that by doing this, people will get kind of hooked to it anyway. And by the time that their like the restriction like lifts, if it ever does, most people will have just given up or moved on and started buying the console and buying the games anyway. This is, guys, this is evil as hell. This is so damn evil.
This is by far the most expensive console that Nintendo has ever released for just the baseline. It has, in my opinion, the worst launch games. One launch game, and it's freaking Mario Kart. I am actually at a point where I think Nintendo truly thinks you're dumb. I truly think they think, okay, piggies, time for your slap. And I am just honestly aghast about how many perpetual missteps they're making. I truly think this system is going to have problems. And I don't just mean because everybody's broke, and I don't just mean because it sounds like it's going to get a price increase. Nintendo's already been making statements about the fact that it sounds like it's going to get a price increase probably around July or August. It sounds like the system's going to go up $100. I just think across the board, if you're excited for the Nintendo Switch 2, I'm not here to tell you don't be excited. I am saying
It sounds like it's going to go up by around $100 to around $550 for the device. Because it's $450 right now, and Nintendo has basically made it clear that it's very possible that the cost that it will go up, because like we're going to have there are tariffs on China right now, and they can't, they're trying to like do this whole thing where they ship from Vietnam. The tariffs are going to affect them. There's still tariffs on Vietnam, so we can see what happened with Microsoft. Microsoft has already increased the cost of their consoles significantly by almost $100, or around $100 each, around $80 to $100 each, I think. And Sony has basically said that their CFO, Chief Financial Officer, basically suggested that gamers should expect. It's a very strong possibility that Sony will be increasing the cost of their hardware soon. Don't forget that Microsoft announced that they're increasing the cost of their games, first party games, this fall to $80 per game, following Nintendo. And so Sony is undoubtedly going to be following this trend. They've basically made it clear that's where they're headed. Oh, it's a possibility. No, that's what they're going to do, because they're like, oh, maybe we can build PlayStations in the United States. It would take quite a bit of time to design to build the infrastructure. They're just trying to kind of, like when you're working at a job and it's extremely horrible, and like you're working at a job and it's really bad, and it's like you're overworked, and it's like, and they start saying, they come around and they start telling you that, oh, they're going to begin hiring new people, you just have to be patient, they're going to start hiring new people. And the company actually does this because they know that the employees are overworked and extremely stressed out and burnt out, but the idea that additional people are going to be coming to help lessen the load, they continue working there, and they continue working there and holding out hope, when in reality the company absolutely despises you. It absolutely despises you. Like when you quit these corporate jobs, you should be grateful that you got out with your life. You should be grateful that you got out when you did. These are horrible places to work. I don't like how lazy Gen Z is. I don't like how dishonest Gen Z is, but I do not blame them for not for not getting involved with these companies. They are terrible. Like corporate, forget about it. No one should be focused on trying to like build a core, go work, do the whole corporate thing. Are there some people who've succeeded? Sure, God bless you. I'm glad that you're doing well. But I would tell any young person today, anyone, even people my age or older than me that have gone back to school and I want to go into that thinking that they're gonna, no, don't get mixed up with it, bro. It's a bad life. You don't want that type of lifestyle, bro. You don't want that type of lifestyle.
as a person that's bought every single Nintendo console, who's reviewed every Nintendo console, tons of Nintendo games over the course of the last 10 years, this is the first time where, honestly, I'm actually skeptical as to whether this is worth it. But these have just been some off-the-cuff thoughts from an incredibly sweaty gamer. But what do you guys think about it? Are you excited for the Nintendo Switch 2? And
I mean, it's a bad look for Nintendo. It's a really, really bad look for Nintendo. We actually have a video from Switch Force, and like I said, I'll link his channel in the description of videos, so you can go check him out as well. I'm actually always quite critical of Switch Force. I'm not a big fan of his. I used to like Switch Force, and then I just felt like this guy was corrupt. Like when Nintendo dropped the new Pokemon, and he was basically celebrating that piece of garbage, like that was buggy and totally awful. But now even here he is like saying something. Although let's wait and see. But yeah,
Word has gotten out that Nintendo was doing something really unusual with the Switch 2, and that is not sending early review units of the console to major press sites and outlets until right at launch, which is crazy, kind of unheard of for a console that they're very confident in that has been pre-ordering well. But journalists are saying today that they've been told they're not getting this system, and therefore they won't be able to have reviews of the system or its games till after you pick up your system. So we're going to break down exactly what's going on and why I feel Nintendo's reason is kind of not true. So good morning, Mark.
it's sus. It's sus. Good morning, Mario. No, not good morning to you. Not good morning to you. Say Gabe. Gabe passed away. This is Zach. No. Good morning. No good morning, Zach. No good morning. I just want to put that out there. No good morning. All right. No good morning, little bro. No good morning.
Mario, and good morning, Switch fans. Nintendo straight up told these journalists it's because there's a big day one patch. Now, maybe there is a big day one patch, but I don't feel like that's what's going on here. This was initially reported by the Game Business. They posted this big article, this big kind of expose saying they've talked to a bunch of different journalists, top tier journalists, and they've all been told that they're not getting the systems early. Now, this is extra infuriating for these people because I'm sure they want.
They won't be able to review it. They won't be able to put out. Guys, think about this carefully. All of the games that will be available at launch, Mario Kart. There's nothing. It will take them at least a week or two to review these games. It's near impossible. It's near impossible, especially considering the size and scope of Mario Kart World. That's a game where you would need at least a week or two to review, and then you have to write the review. Then you need to test the cons. And then here's another thing that's frightening about all of this. I suspect that will still be pushing updates. Like guys, I think there's going to be some really frightening things at launch. I think there's going to be some really frightening things at launch where there's going to be more restrictions that we don't even know about. That Nintendo doesn't want reviewers to actually put out there. Like for example, like this is basically a console that's going to be on all the time, right? Or you won't be able to disable the microphone, and the microphone can listen in on you, even when you're not playing online. The microphone will be able to check in and listen to things that are happening in the room. The microphone and camera. This is all Orwellian stuff, and Nintendo puts it in their guidelines, like in their new updated policy. Like if any portion of our new terms are illegal, the portion that is not deemed to be illegal will remain in effect. They put it right then and there. And these new term updates are only for the United States and the United Kingdom, and they're actually different. It's much harsher for the United States. And they didn't try this in the EU because they know they would have gotten shut down very, very quickly. And they're banking on a messed up judicial system in the United States to allow them to basically take advantage of the situation and harm the consumer, because we do not have good consumer right protections in the United States, among other things. Like holy moly.
Play the Switch 2 right away. But B, Summer Game Fest is going on in LA. Jeff Keighley's Kingdom of Games is happening right when the Switch 2 launches. So, like they said, it's really frustrating, said one editor. We will need to cover Switch 2 while also working across Summer Game Fest. How are we supposed to do that? So not getting their machine until launch day is going to be very crazy. Now, typically,
Nintendo does not want game reviewers reviewing this device. They don't want game reviewers reviewing the games. They want to completely control the narrative. They want to basically put up their videos of the device. They want to put up their videos showing how the device works and features that they only want you to see. They don't want reviewers talking about or discovering any of the horrible things that they've tucked away in there, because they are also aware that this could result in a lot of cancellations. And they're afraid that if people start canceling their pre-orders for the Nintendo Switch 2, it will be a domino effect, especially when maybe in around July, a month later, Nintendo decides that, okay, yeah, we're also going to raise the Nintendo Switch 2 price up to 550 now. Okay? And you know what's interesting? Not only will Nintendo raise the Nintendo Switch 2 price up to 550, don't be surprised when when the cost of the existing Nintendo Switch also goes up as well. The Nintendo Switch OLED, the Nintendo Switch OLED, and the Nintendo Switch normal Nintendo Switch, as well as the Nintendo Switch Lite. Don't be surprised when the cost of the Nintendo Switch Lite goes from $200, it's usually around 200, to maybe 250 or more. Don't be surprised when the price of the normal Switch goes from 250 to as high as 350 or 400. Don't be surprised when the cost of the Switch OLED goes to 400 or even 450 or 429, because Nintendo likes to play with those kinds of numbers. And what are you going to do? You have no other choice. There are no other companies where you can buy a console from unless you're willing to go and get a gaming handheld device from for like a Steam Deck or an ROG Ally and so forth. And are you really going to hand your 5-year-old or your 7-year-old or your 10-year-old a Steam Deck? Even if it's more affordable than a Nintendo Switch, which is becoming more. The cheapest Switch you can get you can get a Steam Deck right now for like $399, and Valve hasn't really talked about increasing the cost. Maybe they will, but it seems like Valve is potentially going to just swallow the increased cost of the Steam Decks and say, well, you know what, we're gonna just ride this out, and we're making so much effing money from the sale of games that we'll just basically chalk this up because we want to make sure that we use Steam Deck as a means of selling games to our consumers. So we'll just eat the cost, and we don't have investors like that. We're a private company. We're not publicly traded. We don't have to keep on making more and more money endlessly. If we make less money than we made the year before, it doesn't really. If we make $750 million instead of $1 billion, a year, this year versus last year, we don't really effing care. Sure, we missed $250 million, but we still made $750 effing million, and we can have money fights all we want. Okay, we can pay our employees. We don't have a lot of them. They only have like a couple hundred employees, all right, compared to other companies. We can pay our employees, and we can basically keep on building and creating value for the consumer, and we're good. We're good. So it's like, I'm not saying Valve isn't greedy, but they're not as greedy as Nintendo, and they're smart enough to not disrespect the consumer or lose the trust of the consumer. Nintendo just doesn't care. Nintendo's response to when you don't trust them anymore is to punish you, silence you, and take whatever extraordinary steps they can to make the situation even worse, and even prosecute you if they have to. It's an insane company.
This happens with games where the publisher is not sure how it's going to review, right? They're like, ooh, we don't know if this is going to get 8s or 6s, so we just let the public have the first dibs and let the reviews come out later. We don't want day one sales to be impacted. But that's not always the case. Some publishers just don't like to really mess with that sort of thing. There was a while where Bethesda was not sending its games early to people, and Bethesda is very confident in their titles and usually puts forth some pretty great games. Now, I want to say, I don't think this is because Nintendo thinks there's a problem with Switch 2. I don't think that's the case at all. But I don't also buy that it's the day one major patch. I think Nintendo is so confident that they feel they don't need this out there, and they'd rather not have any more leaks, they'd rather not have any more issues, they'd rather not monitor any of that stuff. And it seems like Nate Drake kind of agrees with me. DirectFeed Games / Nate Drake, a very famous and popular Nintendo leaker.
So, of course, Zach is going to do what Zach does. He's going to show and say that, oh, the reason why Nintendo is actually doing this is because they're really so confident in their hardware that they don't want to have any leaks out there. And when the consumer plays the device, they'll see for themselves just how great it is. They're so confident that they don't want any discussion about it. Does that sound like a confident person to you? Someone who tries to shut down any conversation whatsoever around them or their product? that they're so confident that they're going to silence everyone, that they're going to take your ability away to criticize them away. Guys, only a shill can come up with this.
Says, don't know why people are celebrating this. It's not a good precedent to see set by a company, nor do I believe the firmware reasoning. This is a net negative for launch day game releases that want to generate excitement hype ahead of launch with coverage, reviews, and consumers. And here is where I come in and tell you, yeah, that's sort of the big takeaway. People are going to buy the Switch 2. People are going to buy Mario Kart World. Supposedly, journalists are being invited to a specific Mario Kart World preview where they'll be able to give more detailed hands-on with the game, but they won't have it at their home and they won't have the Switch 2 unit. But it's these third-party games and these other titles that seem to be bearing the brunt of Nintendo's decision.
Now, this is very interesting. So they're not going to let you review it, but so this is obviously something they planned in advance. But they're going to have a special event or special events where the reviewers that they cherry pick. So Nintendo will then cherry pick. This is something that's been going on with companies now, where they cherry pick the reviewers that are allowed to come to these events, and because they don't want the YouTubers there, they don't want us there. Granted, maybe they'll let some in, but it sounds more like they're going to cherry pick those reviewers who are allowed to who they deem as acceptable to come to these events, and then they will show specific portions of the game and allow them to play specific portions of the game, and they may even put an embargo on that as well. But so they won't be able to really show off any of the game that has not been shown off. They're controlling all of this is evil. They're controlling all of the information, all of the narrative, and you'll basically have to judge and tell people based on that what's out there, because Nintendo does not want you to know exactly what this device is, how it absolutely works, what's the real technology in there, what's the security and all of this stuff, how it's going to kill they're going to be able to kill their games if they have like a kill switch in the device as well. They don't want you to know any of these things. Like, guys, I guarantee you Nintendo is already anticipating the lawsuits. They're playing 3D chess right now. They are at war with the consumer. They are going in for the kill this generation. They are playing 3D chess right now, and they're already planning ahead how they are going to come at how they're going to shut down any recourse if and when a class action lawsuit occurs. So they're minimizing the number of people who will actually be able to sue them. And then from the ones that do sue them, they've already taken steps to shut those lawsuits down as well. This is crazy stuff, guys. Because if you don't opt out of if you don't opt out of their arbitration agreement as quickly as possible within the next 15 days, more or less, because it came into effect it was first introduced at the beginning of this month, I believe. If you don't opt out of it within that period of time, you're screwed. And on top of that, you need to listen. I had to go speak to my attorney. My attorney advised me to send it certified. My attorney prepared the notice for me. He prepared the entire notice for me and advised me to send it certified, because do not expect to hear from Nintendo confirming that they actually got the notice. More so, your sending it certified is just your proof that you actually sent something to Nintendo, because Nintendo will more than likely say they never received anything from you. They very well could say they never received anything from you. Guys, the level of evil is insane. This is insane how evil this company is.
All right, multiple third parties were talked to by the game business, and they said that it's pretty frustrating because they feel like they have great offerings outside of Mario Kart. We're talking games like Cyberpunk, Split Fiction, Civilization, Street Fighter 6, and more. And it's a bit difficult when you don't have reviews of these games out there to help popularize them, to help promote them, and help let people know this is a really good port, or it runs really great on Switch 2, or it feels really great, or the mouse controls are great on Civ 7. Whatever would be said, these games, are not getting that early hype to be.
Now think about this very carefully. Apple is one of the worst companies out there when it comes to their ecosystem. And even Apple ensures that people like MKBHD get early review units of their devices. Don't you see something is wrong, y'all? Nintendo is acting even worse than Apple, which is known for having like horrible policies that are now basically being challenged in court. And like Apple is losing like they're losing all kinds of cases. They're being like their actions are being found to be like monopolistic in some ways. It's crazy. Like Apple reasonably rationally could get broken up. Will they? I don't know. But they absolutely could get broken up. They probably won't, but they 100% could get broken up. But they'll definitely face something. Because if you let Apple continue operating the way that they're operating, like one of the things that happened recently, like Patreon, for example, they had basically announced, like, I guess, like you're like the cost of everything was going to go up now because of Apple's billing system, where Apple takes 30% of everything, including subscriptions. But based on like a recent ruling in the court, that's no longer going to happen anymore. I got like an email from Patron, I believe, saying that based on a recent ruling, that's no longer going to go in effect. Apple basically has to provide ways to subscribe to an app, has to allow for ways to subscribe to different applications and services that go outside of the Apple ecosystem and Apple payment method. So, and of course Apple is going to try to find ways to circumvent this, because that's what they always do. And hopefully they step in, like hopefully the courts step in and say, hey, Apple is like, they're like, we're not breaking the law. No, you're not breaking the rule, but you basically set up new roadblocks to hold on to your monopoly and make it miserable doing this. So yeah, this is guys, when they're behaving worse than Apple, like they're so greedy that they're now going in for the kill. Like they're not even there yet. They're not even there yet in like in terms of the infrastructure. They're not even as big. They're going in for the kill now. Like they're going harder than Apple. They're going harder than Microsoft. They're going harder than all of these companies that usually at least take a minute. Guys, they're going for the freaking kill. They're going for the kill.
Become good sellers, and B, they're going to be completely eaten up by.
And when I say going for the kill, I mean the you will own nothing and be happy. And you also have to wonder, guys, how are, like, for example, game developers are not going to be able to promote their titles. Why are you even putting your game on Nintendo Switch 2? It becomes like an absolute waste where you're basically helping Nintendo, but Nintendo is not helping you. And now they're going to gain, it's like they gain an unprecedented amounts of control over your game on their device. This is a very, very bad precedence to be set, and it's very anti-consumer. Like, I'm telling you guys, like with these new portable gaming devices that can work with Steam, and I wouldn't be shocked when GOG, like if GOG ever releases their own handheld as well. With these handhelds coming out right now, it's like it makes more sense to just make the move. Sure, is it perfect? No. Are there still bugs? Yeah, but I mean, like, you don't really have a lot of choice right now. Like going forward, you're gonna have to basically, a lot of parents will have to basically make a decision. Like, are you really going to do this crap with Nintendo? Or are you gonna buy your kid an effing Steam Deck and tell them to figure it out? Like, that's really where it's going right now. Where parents will have to basically say, yeah, I don't necessarily feel comfortable giving my kid a Steam Deck or an ROG Ally X, but it's much cheaper, or a what do you call it, or Legion Go S that runs Steam OS. I don't necessarily feel comfortable giving them this, but especially like the Legion Go S that runs Steam OS. But this is just a situation that we're in right now. I'm gonna have to do that. Like, I was looking at the cost of a bunch of games. Like, there's a thing called Humble Bundles, and are on Fanatical and other key resellers. And I think I was on Fanatical, and I was looking at the cost of purchase. Like, I was looking at their bundle, and basically you had games in there like Doom Eternal, not like Doom Eternal, and like games that cost like $50, and you can get them basically for $7.50 each if you buy 5 games, like 4 or 5 games. And I was doing the math, and I was like, okay, so for the cost of one Nintendo Switch game, less than the cost of a Nintendo Switch game that cost $60, going in, these bundles happen all the time. You can get 5 games that would run you a couple $100 on the Nintendo Switch for nothing, for less than $50. Less than $50. For less than $50, you can go and grab yourself 5 effing games. For less than $50, you can grab yourself 5 effing games. Okay? The same exact games that are on Nintendo Switch that will run you a couple $100. You can get for less than $50. Like, who the hell is not going to do this? You know? And just tell their kids, figure it the hell out. Give them a Legion Go West and tell them, figure it the hell out.
These writers and reviewers needing to cover the Nintendo stuff first because they know that's what's going to get the most clicks. So one PR boss told Game Business, the lack of independent critical validation is going to make it very hard for us. Maybe we would have been better off waiting a few weeks. And I think you've kind of already seen a bit of that mentality where, yes, Nintendo made direct deals with some companies that wanted their games right out at day one, but it does feel like a lot of third parties are kind of pausing around the launch window because maybe they sense Nintendo was being weird about it. One, there was the case of Nintendo not letting companies announce their Switch 2 games. Two, there was the case of Nintendo not even really revealing things themselves till so late in the ball game right before launch.
It took Nintendo years to regain the trust of developers and so that they would take Nintendo serious again. Because basically, developers had given up on Nintendo after the Nintendo 64. A lot of developers gave up on Nintendo. The GameCube wasn't a bad device, but it was just not as serious as other devices. And with those very small discs, because Nintendo wanted to maintain, they wanted to have proprietary hardware that would prevent piracy. But by going down this route, it ended up resulting in, releasing games that just were not of the same visual fidelity as something found on other consoles. You had restricted storage. It was just BS on the part of Nintendo. And a lot of developers said, you know what, we're done with Nintendo. And then when the Wii came out, it really reflected that, because while the Wii had a lot of games, the fact remains is that there are also a lot of games that just never came to the Wii because it was just less powerful, and it was basically focused around selling Nintendo games. That was the real big seller for Nintendo. Nintendo games optimized for the Wii. There was a very, very limited support for games on the Wii compared to other platforms like the PlayStation 3 and Xbox 360 at the time. So many of those games that came out on these other consoles never went to the Wii. All right, Nintendo made a lot of money, but it was absolutely terrible for game. It was terrible for gamers. And then come the Wii U, there was almost no games on the Wii U. Like, developers just gave up entirely and said, "Yeah, we're done." Like, the game developers gave up entirely, and there were almost no games. Like, as far as I can tell, like, nothing was really there. Like, there were no real ports or anything, and they just said, "F this." When the Switch originally came out back in 2017, a lot of developers who had given up on Nintendo in the past, they didn't take the Switch seriously. And it was only after, people gave the Switch a try and they were like, "Oh, this is pretty awesome, the hybrid." Because when it first came out, a lot of people didn't like the Switch either when it first came out, because it was just so bare bones. But eventually people really warmed up to it. They warmed up to Zelda. And instead of Nintendo learning from this, Nintendo just basically looked for ways to forcibly keep people locked into the Nintendo ecosystem, especially with Nintendo Switch Online, where a lot of games will just never ever come out, and there's no more Nintendo eShop in the sense where you can just buy all of these classic games. No, now you're basically going to have to be on a forever subscription if you ever want to play these titles ever again. That's the Nintendo way. And they basically doubled down on their anti-consumer policies. It's going to continually push people away from Nintendo. And Nintendo, from what we're seeing, is actually projecting lower sales now going forward for the Nintendo Switch 2. And they obviously know something is off, but they're hoping that they can basically just keep by jacking up the prices for everyone, charging more for the hardware, charging more for the software, probably going up to $100 a game eventually. They're going to basically just milk the remaining fans because they think you're stupid. Nintendo thinks we're absolutely stupid stupid, and they're using and because of the trust that we put in Nintendo, they're using that and weaponizing that against us. Nintendo is using and weaponizing their trust against us. Like, I will never mess with Nintendo ever again. Valve just changed their ELU to allow you to sue them. Now they're saying that Valve is not doing this to, entirely because they're virtuous, but it's something where you can at least sue Valve now. They do say that you have to delete your entire Steam like like all your Steam games if you want to sue them, which is messed up. But again, at least you can still sue them, right? And it's like it makes sense. Like, if you're planning to sue Valve for like $100,000 or $1 million, you may not want to lose access to all of your games, but hey, that may very well just happen. And the thing is, you can at least save, you can at least download your save files. If you're at least smart enough to do that, you can go in and you should be able to back up as many of your save files for the games that you've played as well. It's a tedious thing, but it's still something. And you can keep those back, and you can keep those saves backed up and have them just in case. Keep an offline copy of your entire heart of all the games that you've purchased, so you have your saves in there, at least, whatever. But at least you have the option to sue them, even if it's not as straightforward as you'd like, instead of going through arbitration. But what Nintendo has done here is they've taken away your right to sue them entirely. And again, they're playing 3D chess, where they've weaponized, where it's completely anti-consumer. It's about taking advantage of you. Are there other companies that do similar things? Yes. But Nintendo is going to the point now where they've let you also know that they can brick your car, they can brick your hardware, they can brick your Nintendo Switch 1, a game. So you purchase a Nintendo Switch 1, and now Nintendo, years later, almost 10 years later, has taken away your right to modify your hardware, to not just to play games on it. For example, if you want to just using it for other purposes. So for example, let's say you want to add different software onto your Nintendo Switch, onto your original Nintendo Switch device, that allows you to play games from other homebrew games and stuff like that have nothing to do with Nintendo. Nope, that's not legal anymore, and they'll brick the device. Basically, you do not own your hardware. This is completely unprecedented, where a company can take away your right to own a device that you purchased almost 10 years after purchasing it. Like, this, guys, this is a dangerous precedent, and it could basically allow other companies that are watching Nintendo do this, say, hey, we can also do the exact same thing. Apple could do the exact same thing. Okay. Oh, nope. You don't actually own your iPhone. We're going to take away your right. We're going to take away your ownership. And if you don't accept it, then you lose access to all of the apps and everything that you've purchased from Apple. And if you don't like it, too bad. And if you try to sue us, you're a nobody. We'll destroy you. We'll wreck you. But hey, we're Apple and everything is good. And don't dare say anything bad about us, because that's defamation. And we'll start to call you crazy we'll start to call you crazy like CAN, like KANYE. If you know who I'm talking about. The moment that you don't like what you're saying, they start to call you crazy. Holy cow. Guys, that's it, guys. It's so funny because that's how they would operate. They'd oh, angry guy is crazy. This guy's that's how these people, they're absolutely crazy. He's a theorist. He's like the film theory. He's like the film theorist, except with conspiracies, man. Yeah, you gotta be careful with these types of people. Hey, he needs his med. Did you take your meds today, Angry? And then all of a sudden, Angry isn't dropping content anymore. And lo and behold, you don't even know if Angry's locked, if they have Angry institutionalized somewhere, or because they had him deleted. I'm just saying, do not, if you do not have a Nintendo Switch 2, if you do not have a Nintendo Switch, or you haven't pre-ordered it, please don't buy this. And listen to me, do not give it to your kids. If I find out that any of you give this piece of garbage to your kids, I will treat you like I don't know what. You can listen, don't give it, don't I don't care. Oh, I can do what I want, Angry. F you. If you give this piece of spy hardware to your effing kids, F you. F you. If you give this piece of trash to your kids, you do not, how can you do something like that? And the only reason why I talk like this is because I obviously care, and I try not to. Don't give it to your effing kids. Don't buy this piece of garbage for your damn kids. Do you understand me? Holy cow, bro. It really pissed me the hell off. It really did.
And three, letting Nintendo kind of do the Mario Kart thing at launch and then have your game come out a month, 2 months, 3 months, 4 months down the road. You're still hitting a good window. You're still coming out before the big Black Friday spending and holiday spending rush. And you don't have to deal with this initial launch period where Nintendo is being, seems difficult, honestly. Again, I don't think this is a case of Nintendo like worrying, struggling, being fearful. I think this is a case of Nintendo being like, we got the goods, we don't need you. And let me just say, as someone that has reviewed games and covered games early for about 15 years now, that's not a good precedent. Nate Drake is right. We don't want these companies to believe that they don't need or don't feel the obligation to provide review copies, to provide access, so that you are always walking in blind. Because remember, that's sort of the end game here is they don't have to give you review copies. Nobody has to provide any copies. They could require you to go buy the game. They could require you to review it after launch. And all that does is provide more murky waters and more confusion for consumers, which is never a good thing. Take Mario Kart World even, for example. You won't really know exactly how expansive the open world is, exactly how fun all those P-switches are, exactly how time-consuming all those challenges are, if there's anything great to unlock at the end of it, or any progression whatsoever, if these reviewers are not getting access to the game before launch. You're probably buying Mario Kart World anyways, and that's what Nintendo is counting on, but it's not a good look for future titles. Mario Kart kind of becomes an anomaly because it's their best seller, but, you know, we'd like to know about DK Bonanza before DK Bonanza comes out. We'd like to know about Hyrule Warriors Age of Imprisonment and see what kind of upgrades were made and see what kind of tweaks were made if that game is really worth spending for. And I'll tell you straight up, Nintendo stopped sending review codes after Super Mario Odyssey early, and they give it to you day of, even when I did work with Nintendo. And I thought that was a huge missed opportunity because it's like, dude, your game's already out there, and now you're expecting us to start coverage? It's not really what people want to see. It doesn't really help the reviewer or the YouTuber or the writer, and it definitely doesn't help the people looking to buy the game. So a very bizarre decision. It's not like it's never been done before, but for a console, like, I got my Switch 1 from Nintendo a week before, okay? And they had those things out there probably to people even before me. They let you get onto the eShop. They let you download snipper clips. They let you try Zelda for many hours. They really wanted to sell you on the concept of the Switch. And I think at the end of the day, maybe there is some day one patch, but in reality, they don't feel like they need to sell this concept. They know they got the games. They know they got the third-party support. And at the end of the day, this system is already sold, right? They've already sold out pre-orders. Who cares if there's reviews from Nintendo's perspective? But it's a bit bizarre because you're not going to really see stuff until you get the system, or unless somebody gets one early and, you know, tries to find one somewhere and then start posting about it. It'll be very interesting to see how things shape.
Nintendo would shut that down immediately. If anyone got an early review unit and they started posting early videos, Nintendo would flag their YouTube account and have it taken offline instantly. We already know how this worked. And for Zach to make that suggestion, it just like he knows better than anyone else, especially the kind of work that he does, how Nintendo operates.
Up as we move really close to June 5th, but don't expect to see anything out there until you pick up your system, which some people, you know, think is a good thing because then it's not going to be spoiled, or because then they get it at the same time as these writers and there's no FOMO. At the end of the day, though, it is Nintendo kind of exerting their control in a way that maybe they shouldn't be. Just provide the review units. You know the system's going to review well anyways. What else is there to leak? It's not like Nintendo's hiding the big secret magic.
They know that the system is going to review well anyway. Actually, we don't know. We don't know if the system is going to review well, to be honest. That's the thing. Like, and you know what's interesting? Like, if Zach is the same type of dude who will end up saying things like, I was not expecting for reviewers to review bomb this device. I was thinking that it was going to be much better, but Nintendo is going to fix all of this. They are working behind the scenes to release the patches, and we should be looking at the positive side of things. This thing is absolutely incredible. Yes, there is spyware, but this is just the way things were going. Microsoft tried to do this many years ago, and it would have been the best thing if they had done it, and gamers did not shut it down. You know, it doesn't matter. Your Echo device is listening to you. Your phone is listening to you. I mean, stop complaining. This is going to enhance the experience even more by Nintendo getting to know who you are. Blah 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 blah. Shill 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 shill. Blah 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 blah. These shills are just something else, y'all. Oh my gosh.
game underneath the hood of the Switch 2. Let people check out if the new kickstand really is that good at reclining. Let people check out if game chat is really a great service.
I mean, guys, that's really all that I have to say on the matter. Nintendo has basically blocked gamers from reviewing the Nintendo Switch 2, and this is a horrible precedence to set. And if Nintendo gets away with it, I'm sure others will try, but I don't feel like this could work for everyone. They can only work for Nintendo because Nintendo is so big. But I think like this is a horrible thing because like early game reviews actually help to sell games and cons and devices unless they're absolutely terrible. And if you're basically shutting out any criticism whatsoever, that strongly suggests that there is something that you're trying to cover up. And Nintendo is they're going to great lengths to basically go after the consumer, but not only the consumer, but control the gaming media completely. And they're doing it because they can, because they've now become too big to fail in many ways, it would appear. But they're not too big to fail. Nintendo is also scared because Nintendo remembers those hard days where they were brokies, and they suffered because people rejected the 3DS and they lost all of this money. And yeah, I mean, if this happens, I guarantee you, if this happens with Nintendo again, Nintendo will find other ways to lash out at the consumer and punish us, right? And it's like the terms that we agreed to. Don't be surprised if Nintendo starts just suing us. Like try to imagine the worst thing that Nintendo can possibly do to you, and then understand that it's even worse than that. Like anything that you're imagining that Nintendo can do to you, like this is like you should never have to worry about a company stealing from you, suing you, or confiscating every your whatever you've purchased, or spying on you. And yet that's the reality we now live in with Nintendo. Okay, where you should not be stressed out doing business with them. So it's literally hell on earth. And of course, Nintendo is just banking on people not knowing what they're doing. The average mom and dad parent not knowing what Nintendo is doing and how badly they're screwing people over. The average loser basically doubling down and saying that this is wonderful, and we shouldn't even be talking about it, and trying to cover up for what Nintendo is doing, like the Sony ponies. But let me know your thoughts, and we'll talk about it in the comments. Do you guys agree that Nintendo is out of their damn minds? No one should buy a Nintendo Switch 2 if you can avoid it, and it's only going to get worse from here. Let me know your thoughts, and we'll talk about it in the comments. Like the video if you like it. Don't forget to subscribe. And if you like the video, share the video. And just remember that all roads lead to MWAM and walking away. And cheers.
Nothing says you care like crypto. Nothing can compare. Nothing says you care like crypto. Oh, nothing can compare to crypto.